I think
Thank you.
I probably say this beginning of every week, but gosh, I've just really enjoyed being on these calls. I feel like I always take something away that's meaningful to be able to apply, in our business or in my life in general. That's just been really great for me, and I've appreciated the feedback I've gotten from all of you as well. And then, as we post resources, it's been neat to have people reach out to us that never were on the call to say, oh, I watched that video and it was really great and I really love this resource. So hope it's been helpful for all of you as things are starting to kind of open back up across the country in different states. I know people are wrestling with the, when do we open and how do we open? And, we're today kind of focusing on the new networking normal. And I'd like to, even take the time today, if it would be helpful for people, maybe we push it to next week, we can talk through it. But I know several of our clients are just trying to figure out, because every state is so different, every county is so different, and what's being required if you're going to open and you're in the county. Should we open? Shouldn't we open? If we do, what do we say about it? I'm aware of one firm that's opening up and they're temperature checking every person that comes into the building. And is that logistically viable? Does that make sense for the employees that really don't feel comfortable coming in? Are we okay with differentiating and saying, if you want to come in, you can, but you don't have to? There's all kinds of just dialogue. I think there's dialogue going on in which there's just very little clarity, on what people want to do. And there are so many different options and such a big impact because at least in Missouri, the opening up is supposed to be starting, next week. I wanted to provide space for that conversation today, since we hadn't planned on it, but that's, we're all trying to predict the timing. And then we also want to talk about the new networking normal, and how can we continue to make connections in this virtual world, not just with clients, but with potential clients. And so we invited Zoe to be on the call today, which I'm really excited about. It's always good to see her face anyway. But Bamsel, I think, has just been doing a phenomenal job of leaning into the situation that we have going on here. Instead of shying away and pulling back and just waiting, it's how can we embrace this new normal and continue to form relationships, continue to add value. So with that, let's just launch in with good things in the positive perspective. Does anyone have anything good to share this week that's happened over the last week, personally or professionally?
I can go ahead.
I discovered something today, actually, that made some of our staff happy, which was good. And that was a new way to do will executions, which they liked and may want to continue to implement, which it was sort of a hybrid of what I had talked to some colleagues about. But essentially it was laying out all the documents in a very open area that we had and having the client in briefly and just having them watch through some glass and doing it one by one. And it was much more efficient than how we normally do it, which is passing it around the table. Staff really liked it, told me they liked it. So we may do more of those. And two, it was good that the staff, I had good feedback from the staff on it, because I was a little nervous about when I first started to set it up, whether or not anybody was even going to be willing to do it. So that was a good thing.
Is that something you can do with a remote notary, or is that not available for that?
Yes, in the state of Illinois, you could do it with a remote notary, and some of those rules have been relaxed and modified, but there is arguably a question about whether or not, sort of like the speedy trial issues, there is still a question out there whether or not push comes to shove down the road, whether or not it would hold up. So we're fortunate in that we have the space to do it. We have about a third of our office that is open and gave us the ability to do that. It was between a table, a long counter, and then a long desk area. And it's basically right as you come into our building. So But yeah, you could do it remotely. I don't know of anybody that's doing it remotely. Everybody that I've talked to, either directly or in one of the discussion groups, has been doing some version of having people in or having people into their parking lot. I know a couple people
Well, Missouri
doing
Missouri,
that and are setting up some given day. So.
Missouri is still making it pretty difficult to do the e-notaries. I know several of our clients have applied for, you have to apply to get approved in Missouri to do the e-notaries, right? And they're still waiting, shocker, on hearing back on if they've been approved. And I mean, it's been 3 weeks, so 3 weeks or more. So, gosh, if you're going to institute something like this just to respond to our society and what's going on, you better be able to approve things pretty quickly so that by the time they get approved, we're not going to, in theory, need it anymore. So I know Missouri's been a little bit, I think, behind where Illinois was on those e-notaries, which has been a little frustrating.
I worry about, the optics of the situation where, you've separated yourself from the client, as if they're some kind of leper or something. But I guess people understand under the circumstances.
Yeah, that was one of the things I identified too, and I usually do a short follow-up letter when I'm done with something like that, but I drafted a particular follow-up letter to start using for these, and basically asking them for, bearing with us, because this was a client that I had not met. This was somebody who had some health conditions. He's a former coal miner, and he's compromised, and he had some concerns, and he wanted to get it done, and I had not met him, and we wanted to keep that human touch as best we could. So I did drafted a special letter to start to work on to send to these people to try to keep that connection, and of course invite them to contact us with any other issues they have. So the other thing I didn't mention that we did too is the few times I've had people in, I always make them bring their own pen, ask them to bring their own pen. So I'm not giving them a pen. And if I were to give them a pen, they're taking it with them. So,
yeah.
Good. Any other good things?
So yesterday,
okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Zoe.
Yesterday we had our first executive committee meeting. Our bar year starts on May 1, and it was Judge Norton's first executive committee meeting, and a little disappointed to have that as a Zoom meeting, but we had 100% attendance. And we've seen declining attendance at exec and board meetings over the past 4 or 5 years. Jeff, bless his heart, drove in from far away for those meetings. But so that was a win that we had 100% attendance and good participation. So that was good. And then personally, for my retirement gift to myself, Judge Russell and I were flying to the Cards Cubs game on June, whatever it was. And of course, that's not happening. And I had tried to get a refund on my rather expensive airline ticket. And yesterday, after 2.5 hours on the phone with Delta, I won.
Right.
Not a credit, a real dollar refund.
Of course, the value of your ticket might be net positive $32, but
Exactly. Anyway, personal victory.
yeah, that's great. Legal back office got a new client late last week, beginning of this week, so that's a good thing. It's always interesting to be getting new business during this time. That feels good. So that's a positive for us.
I think it's positive to hear that we're not seeing in the news any law firms locally that are furloughing. I'm sure there may be some that we don't know of, but it's nice to hear that. I think our attorneys here in St. Louis seem to still be busy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there was a lot of fear and concern on the drop off, and now I think time will tell, right? There's concern over what the future looks like, as calls haven't been coming in April and are going to be trickling in May. What is June, July, August going to look like? So we'll see. But I've been encouraged by our clients getting the PPP funding, that they really needed. I mean, we can criticize the government all that we want, but that was pretty fast acting, to be able to help some small businesses. And I know our clients have benefited from that for sure. So anything else, Coach Melody? Do you want to share a good thing?
Yes, I was actually contacted by the Urban League I'm the co-chair of a health fair, which is going to be really cool. It's going to provide resources to the community. It's Saturday at from 11 to 12:30. It's like a statewide event where every city has their own. And it was going to be canceled, and they decided to do it virtually. And since I have so much experience, I was asked to come on board and be the co-chair. So that was pretty cool. And I did a panel talking about entrepreneurship and wellness and how it relates during COVID, because this is a big deal right now. So I'm staying busy nevertheless.
Good, that's fantastic. Well, let's dive into our core topic here, which is, this new networking normal. Let's focus on that just for a little bit. And then I'd like to talk about and collaborate on offices opening. Are you opening? Did you ever close? How are you doing that? Randy shared a little bit about the wills process, but how are you all either struggling through making new connections during this virtual world scenario, or what successes have you had? In any order, I'd like us just to kind of all collaborate on what we're seeing on the networking front.
This afternoon, the solo and small group that Mark Mueller chairs is doing its regular Zoom event. Normally it was a happy hour on Thursday afternoon, but that's a good way to get some FaceTime with lawyers. I think that those who have taken advantage of social media are ahead of the game, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to make some connections that way that people haven't exploited in the past.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's easy. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to spend an hour on the road to go to a 20-minute, Jamie, I've seen you, sometimes you and I are like, we go 3 different places, and it's 30 minutes in between those 3 different places. So I think this is easy. You can get a little bit of work done and still do a little bit of networking. We're partnering with Pullman Reporting this afternoon for a virtual happy hour, and I'm going to have a mixologist, and we'll see how that goes. I'll report back next week. But I'll try that.
How does a virtual mixologist work? I'm curious.
They've got a bartender that's gonna make a certain drink, and you're supposed to mix it up along, and he talks about the content. And I beyond wine, I don't know very much about fancy drinks. But
are you participating from behind your bar there in your living room?
I think I should, don't you, Dave?
I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. That's a good idea. I know Chris had shared, one of the lawyers at Carmody sent bottles of wine out to clients and referral sources, and then scheduled a Zoom with a sommelier that actually walked people through a wine tasting.
Oh, that's cool.
And I think that's really cool, though, the mixologist idea. I mean, you could send in advance, obviously you could send out a little shopping list for people. Hey, here are the things that you need to buy for this Zoom, so they have it, or you could send it to them, have it delivered through Drizzly or whatever. We should do that for Legal Back Office. I like that, because we could do that across the country, get all of our clients on a call and have someone where they're directing people to mix up a cocktail. I like that. That's clever.
And, if you did that, with like airplane bottles or whatever, could be, so it's pre-sized. That could be a really outstanding.
You could probably get those bottles cheap right now.
That's right.
I think I saw one of the St. Louis restaurants had their buffet tables set up, and they filled them up with airplane bottles.
It was a Dierberg's salad bar that transformed into a little shot bar.
Oh, I love it.
Where is that Dierberg's?
It's the one in Brentwood. I've been there.
I would say, Carmody McDonald, we do a lot of mixers, and I've had a lot of mixers planned. I just had a really successful, I think, successful mixer with one of our potential strategic partners. But then I still have some that we had scheduled, and I said, hey, how about we take this to Zoom rather than put it off? And they just, right before this call, said, hey, we're coming back probably mid-June. Why don't we still do a face-to-face? Let's tentatively end of July. So there's still some that are reluctant to take a mixer or a networking event online, at least what I'm experienced. But then there's others that say, hey, no, this could be how it is going to be for the next 6 months. So let's go online.
And that's the question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what are the next 6 months going to look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have found in terms of networking, people now have more time to have phone calls and they have longer phone calls. And a lot of your phone calls now have, either by design or sometimes not, you're still meeting people. I had an attorney in the Chicago area yesterday that I needed to refer a client to. And, part of it was the business end of it, but part of it was just, getting to know each other a little. And certainly some of the other people in my network, you've made it a point just to reach out to them, see how their business is going, see how this is, affecting them one way or the other, and just to keep those connections. And you're more likely, I think, to be able to have a phone call like that, and a more lengthy phone call, honestly, more substantive, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've found with legal back office in particular, now that everyone's comfortable on Zoom, because there was a bit of a technology gap, maybe, just a month ago. Now that a lot of our clients are using that, it's a lot easier for us to hop on a quick call. Kind of like Zoe said, we don't have to worry about the commute time and stuff for meetings. So having a 15-minute check-in weekly with clients isn't unreasonable. Just to kind of keep the status of their account up to date. I found that we've been in communication with our clients probably more through this. And I think a little bit of that is probably because lawyers are a little bit more interested in their marketing side of things right now. But I think it'll kind of pave the way in the future, even if, we are meeting back in person again shortly. It'll make it easier to have those quick client touches now that we're all on the same technology level playing field.
Yeah, I was going to share, I think it was maybe 3 weeks ago that I was sharing how I'd been kind of, down, right, for lack of a better word, because I'm such an extrovert, and, not being able to see Jeff every few weeks at a BAMSL networking event was just bothering me. But, just the interaction with people, and I enjoy the interaction with people, and going to the coffee, lunches, happy hours, dinners, like I enjoy that. I enjoy sitting down and chatting with people, either one-on-one or in a small group. And so it was just bothering me. I wasn't feeling effective, and I was feeling, I wasn't able to accomplish what I would normally be accomplishing. And when you're in a client development role, Chris is in that sort of role where you're constantly going to coffees, lunches, happy hours, afternoon coffees, whatever. So when you're not doing that, it's easy to feel like, oh, well, I can't do that anymore. Here's what I can't do it. And I got inspired by one of you saying, you can do all of those, just do them over Zoom. Right. And in fact, you can do more because you don't have to drive to the coffee shop or drive to the bar or whatever. And so I did this campaign, if this is helpful for you all, and just kind of took a chance where I went through my LinkedIn, and, all the in-mails and messages I've gotten from people wanting to talk to me, I said yes when I might not have otherwise said yes, and sent them the link to my calendar. And I also did a public post on LinkedIn called Fill My Heart and Calendar Campaign, basically telling the world that I feel empty because I'm not meeting with people. Anyone who wants to grab time on my calendar and just connect, just do it. And here's the link, and I could control obviously when those hours were. And I went from having this really empty calendar and really empty spirit in here to my calendar being completely full and booked out for 3 weeks. And it's something about those back to back to backs. And I mean, I could block time, right, where I needed to work and didn't want to be meeting with people. It got me re-energized. It's like it just kind of got that perk back up in me, or that pep in my step. And it wasn't overwhelming. It's not like I got hundreds of people all trying to put time on my calendar, but people that bumped into it and saw it. And it helped me track too, to see, who was interested in meeting with me. And typically then, after I had those meetings, then those meetings connected me with other people who then connected me with other people. And it just kind of kept going. And that has energized me a lot. And I mean, even just this morning, I had a call with a lady who had just bumped into an article that I'd written on LinkedIn that was like a personal article, and she really liked it and had reached out months ago, but we never got together. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to make it happen with this lady. And it was a great conversation and could be a really great opportunity. So I was just going to share that with people, that, opening myself up to, it's the lawyers struggle sometimes with, do I give clients my cell phone? Because I'm afraid if I give out my cell phone number, I'm going to get overwhelmed with calls. But now what we know is that doesn't usually happen. So I had that a little bit going into it. Gosh, I'm putting my calendar basically out there for my 4,000 followers on LinkedIn to just grab time. Am I going to get bombarded by all these salespeople that I don't need what they're selling, And that didn't happen. I mean, I got the meetings with people that were genuinely interested in connecting, and there were some conversations that I could have done without. They were just kind of like, meh, whatever. But you're gonna have those, right? So I thought I would just share that Fill My Heart and Calendar campaign, and just kind of putting it out there, to meet with other professionals, whether they're in the industry or not, and how that can just create momentum.
So here's the question. Do you have on high heels right now? Because Jamie and I have talked about the look, and she always has on high heels when she's doing a meeting, and we've talked about why she does that. And I see people talk about on Facebook or LinkedIn how they're really enjoying wearing yoga pants. I hate that. I want to put on a dress and be, the look. And I put on a dress down in my basement office. I look kind of stupid. So I was just curious if you had your high heels on. I'm missing the look.
I don't, but I will tell you that I do have a pair of heels that are like sitting in my office, and I will put them on psychologically if I'm going into a meeting and we used to tell our intake center and our call center reps this all the time, that there's something that happens to your psyche when you're dressed a certain way and you approach the conversation in a different way. So I'm not wearing heels today because I'm working from home, but sometimes in the office, I've got my little heels that I just keep there because I walk to the office pretty frequently. So I can throw my heels on if I feel like I need to, even if I'm on a call.
But that's interesting you say that. I was talking to an accountant who said they presented and later asked people to send in any questions, and more questions were about their background than about the topic she was presenting. Like, where did you get those drapes? I like that picture. Did you draw that picture? And so she said that everybody's more interested in the background than what I was presenting on.
Another interesting question that came up, I was on an ABA, the small business and middle market committee had a Zoom call last week, and this committee, there were 75 people on this Zoom call. I mean, it was insane. There was a lot of people on there. And I was on a panel discussion talking about, client development during this time and what does that look like and things to be cognizant of. And, one person asked about, when you're doing a Zoom meeting, do you push on people to require that they turn their video on? Or do you kind of let it slide? Or how do you approach that? Is it weird if you really want people to turn on their video? And or if people are calling in, adamant that they're on video. And my response to them was, I feel like the way people build trust with you is by not just hearing you, but seeing you. Right. And when they can see you and see your eyes and, they hear your voice, obviously, but I would care less about them having their video on, especially if you're the one that's in that client development process and keeping your video on. And I do think in this sort of new networking normal that we're in, being able to see people is a key advantage than when we would have otherwise had a call. So when I get people wanting to set up consults with me, I always do Zoom now, where I was doing phone before, and now I always include Zoom. And if they choose to call in, like I had 2 meetings this morning where the person never turned on their video, but I have mine on because I want them to see my face, hear, my voice connected to my facial expressions. And I think that's really powerful in this new networking normal. So I would also really encourage you all, if you would otherwise do a call, to set up the Zoom. And if anything, just let them see you. And your
Is this, this current roundtable thing that you've been doing, I've only been aware of it for the last month or so, but is this a response to the COVID thing as well?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of value to me. I know I've said that offline, and that I think is a good marketing tool for you,
Yeah.
and I think lawyers can take a tip on that. Maybe it's time to do those, potential client educational things, meetings and things like that. The other one, your legal back office, but I think there's going to be an opportunity coming up for legal front office, because I think just like Jack Dorsey and all those guys realize, hey, people don't have to come to work anymore, and they're going to be giving up their office space. I think a lot of lawyers will do that, and there may be a need for professional office space, but more than offices, really a floor full of conference rooms that you can rent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that in a lot of industries. I was talking to TIAA wealth advisor, I guess, and they've been working at home since the beginning of this, and what they anticipate is they're going to be told at some point, probably midsummer, they're guessing, you're going to work at home through the rest of the year, and they are then going to move to, the company itself is going to realize, hey, we can save a lot of money like this, because they'll have leases starting to expire, and we'll start to move a lot of their people. They'll require them to go to people's businesses or go to their homes and meet with them, and we'll eliminate that. I suspect we'll start seeing that in all sorts of different contexts.
I was on with an office broker this morning, and we asked him the same question about St. Louis, and he said only his forecast is, we aren't like, we don't have a Google, we don't have an Amazon. He suspects it may happen what we just mentioned, but he also said there's not that many technology companies in St. Louis that will probably do what the Googles and the Amazons are doing, and for the rest of the year you can work from home, other than Square. Was the only one he noted.
That is a space BAMSL can get in, because we already have office space available for free for BAMSL memberships, and we could certainly expand for conference rooms, and that could be a member benefit that might be of value, particularly those firms that choose to go virtual but need a space once in a while. We probably should play that up a little more, that member benefit.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with charging for it, should it outstrip your current capabilities. Hell, having a satellite out, we've talked about for years in Clayton, or out, near the John Gunn's office or something. Mm-hmm. That would be, hell, I'd pay for that occasionally.
Far less recurring rent. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I like that, David, you're, obviously I like compliments, but I like that you're referencing what we're doing every week, because I think there's an opportunity to replicate this format, but even in your firms. It was really important to me that we not just be another educational expert source, because you guys know there's tons of content being pushed out, tons of formal webinars. We really wanted this to be a conversation. and collaboration where we don't have all the answers, we figure it out together, because that's what this is. I mean, we're all trying to figure this out together. And actually, Stock Legal, who Sarah's not on the call today, but we just did a big push, a marketing push for her, where she actually put it out there to the world, to potential clients, that they could get 15 to 30 free minutes of her time to ask her any legal questions. I mean,
I see.
right? I mean, and it's not like, oh my gosh, now she's flooded and overwhelmed, and I mean, the same thing with me putting it out there to the world. Okay, just grab time on my calendar. It's available to anyone and everyone that wants to network or get together. And that's another opportunity, is maybe you start doing a weekly call for anyone that wants to hop on and ask questions for free of you as a lawyer. And you're going to be on for that 1 hour, and it's a free office hours or whatever, with your potential clients,
Right.
or your current clients. Why not give your current clients, especially if you're doing it in a format like this? And obviously, if it's a practice area, you don't want people coming on and asking maybe their personal divorce questions over the call. But, if it's corporate or real estate or patents or any of that sort of thing, I mean, this format could be easily replicated with your potential client list and even your current clients.
That was a nice campaign, Jamie. I saw that. My brother, who's a fan of Sarah's, forwarded it. Yeah, that was a nice campaign you guys did.
How did you put that out to potential clients?
We did a e-blast, and we put together a PDF, and then we set up like a sub website, sub
Landing page.
The website, yeah, landing page. There you go. Thank you. I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Landing page. So then they could put it out on their social media. They could put it out, through their e-blast, and then it gives them an automated way to be able to grab that time. And that investment might be not for today, right? That investment of time could be for tomorrow, meaning next year, when that person is finally going to start moving forward in their business. So it's a big investment today, to try to continue to put your brand in front of people on a consistent basis.
So one suggestion on networking, because like Jamie, I'm having a lot of networking calls, 5 or 6 this week, one-on-ones, not so much all group, and sometimes bringing attorneys on as well. And usually after you have that Zoom meeting, it begs a question, okay, the next step is we need to get together. And you're so hesitant to put something on the calendar, but I'm doing it. I'm saying, okay, I'll follow up. I'll wait a couple weeks, and then I'm going to follow up and say, how about we meet end of July? So you get something on the calendar where we physically meet, because after that initial Zoom call, it just seems it always ends with, hey, when we can get together, let's get together.
Yeah.
And so it isn't dropped. I'm going to put it in a bring up for 2 weeks and say, okay, let's put something on the calendar. And so what if end of July comes and then we find out we can't do it, but at least we get it on the calendar, a physical meet.
You're right. And everyone has a different comfort level with getting together now. But I mean, you can get together now if you're comfortable with that socially distanced. I had a great one-on-one meeting with my business coach last week at the Drunken Fish in the Central West End. They still have kind of like tables and chairs outside, so you can sit pretty far away and you can order to-go food and beverages. In fact, they make their Mr. Miyagi cocktail in a 32-ounce soup container with a lid that you can take to go. I'm like, drinking a cocktail out of a soup container. But it's the things you can do. If people have the comfort level, you can do it and be safe about it. So not being reticent. I like that advice, Chris. Just get it on the calendar, and if you have to move it, move it. Anybody else have anything they want to share, or anything they've been struggling with networking, or ideas?
I think that you need to take an attitude of it's not an either or, it's a both and. And by that I mean, if you read that resource that you posted, Networking for Introverts, that author talks a great deal about the time suck of in-person networking, the travel time, the actual event, then the travel time back home, and how basically that time's gone, and how you have to think about how you touch people. So you can touch them in a variety of ways. I mean, there's so much technology available. you can do some of these things with videos that you've already, I mean, if you know that your intake involves saying the same thing over and over and over again, then why not video it and do that as an initial intro and then have a shorter conversation later on.
Yeah.
Or there's the old school, handwritten note is so exceptional nowadays. If you get a handwritten note from somebody, it's like noticeable.
Yeah.
I've been doing, so trying to be creative, I've done 16 hearings with Alaris in the last 2 weeks because the VA is not holding hearings. So I think my client's statements under oath are important. So I can kind of guess what the judge might wonder. And so I just submit those sworn statements, but I got a handwritten note from the owner of Alaris here in St. Louis. So, you know, I get a lot of mail. And in fact, that's the thing that kind of is, my office is set up to work remotely. So that's the only thing we haven't figured out how to do remotely. So the highest paid employee is going to the post office, picking up the mail and scanning it in every day. So it's a profitability issue that I have to figure out. But I think it's both and. So a phone call, an email, LinkedIn, notes, all of it.
Sarah Johnson.
Jeff, I'm going to find a resource for you. There is a vendor ABA tech show that does the mail scanning for you and cuts out the middleman. I have a stack of ABA tech show cards right here. I'm going to find it and I'll message it to the group.
Okay.
Yep, you were right on the same page.
Yeah, as soon as I heard that, I was like, I've been waiting to share this resource with someone. So we've been trying to move all of our clients to be fully paperless. So anyone that we can help do that.
I do want to spend some time here because I think it's top of mind for a lot of people on the, and this has been great discussion about networking, but on the opening up, right? The opening up of the office. There's, I think there's some trepidation, fears where there aren't fears. There's just logistical concerns. Like, should we open up? How should we open up? Should we not, you know, anyone, have any of that going on or want to share what your plans are for opening up? I know Amy's on the call and Paul Camazine's a fairly decent sized office and Carmody's a decent sized office. You know, the smaller offices, you know, could be of no concern, could not be. I don't know. What are you guys thinking and feeling or planning?
I was planning to go have staff back in Monday, and I have postponed that till the day after Memorial Day because I'm in the process of developing policies, and I decided I wasn't ready, and they're ready to come back. They're willing, and it's a small staff, but it's going to be different. And you've got to have, you know, we're probably going to take temperatures as they come in. Well, who takes those temperatures and who keeps the record? And you know, if you pass it around, why the thermometer, I mean, there's just a lot to think about. So I'm in the process of developing policies to follow and going to kind of watch and see what happens when other folks go back to work on Monday. I know a lot of the law firms, the larger law firms, are doing alternate days. They're doing reverse shifts. So you work from home 2 days, you come to work 2 days, and 50-50 on what they're doing with the 5th day. But it's a huge challenge. You can't just say come back. You've got to have it all outlined. That's hard.
Yeah, our firm, we're looking at an A and B group. A group comes in 1 week, and then the B group comes in the next. So that's what they're tentatively talking about right now.
So what are you going to do if group A, 2 people want to come the next week because of whatever? Are you going to let them switch in and out?
I don't know, but we're being real cautious. They're saying that we're going to look at everybody's individual circumstance. So they're reassuring people that regardless if we have an A and B group, we're going to look at your circumstance, and everybody has, you know, is coming. They may have elderly parents, they have kids that aren't in camp yet or won't be able to go to camp. So yeah, they're going to be offering some flexibility.
Are you taking temperatures?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure.
Wearing masks?
They haven't really communicated the details yet.
Thanks.
I did see the Micus O'Toole, I saw their email out that they sent a couple days ago, and they're planning on following, county guidelines where you need to wear a mask when you're in common areas. If you've got an office that the door closes, there's not an expectation that you wear them in your own office with the door closed. I know another big firm in town is doing the temperature checks. Man, all of that seems like such a logistical nightmare to me. For what gain? If you've already adjusted everything to be virtual, if at all possible, it seems more efficient to me to just keep doing things virtual. Amy just shared they're actually going over a meeting today on their reopening, but they have a 6 to 12 week phased process for reopening starting June 1. And it's a fair point, with people that have kids, there's no daycare, there's no camps this summer. I mean, childcare issues are going to drastically limit and people's health concerns, and people that are in highly susceptible health categories due to age, immune system, or other existing medical conditions. I mean, we've got to all remain flexible. I think for sure that's going to be a key here.
The biggest question in our firm is the elevator.
Yes.
I'm on the 18th floor.
Yeah.
And apparently they're only going to let one person in at a time. Some say, well, you can walk. Well, I'm not going to walk 18 flights of stairs.
Oh, come on.
You
It's your workout for the day.
You should get to the 9th floor, right? Or I would.
Well, I think that issue of productivity is huge. And that's why I decided not to go back next week was, how much time is it going to take to put a mask on, take a mask off, take a temperature? There's some time lost there. You go to get a cup of coffee, or you're going to put a coffee machine in your office so you don't have to put on a mask. It just sounds not fun.
I think there's not a lot of value to the temperature thing, because you can have the COVID without even running a temperature or any other symptoms. So, while it's
Sounds good.
yeah, but it's not. Yeah, it sounds good. If your staff has a temperature, don't come in. If I think that's going to become the new norm. If you're sick, don't come to the office.
Yeah, we just started the conversation just today, and technically we could be fully open. We're not, but part of my concern is because many of our attorneys here are regularly at the courthouse. That is daily and often multiple times daily. We could take whatever steps we wanted to here, and at least, the science that we have now is that potentially those people are all bringing something back or any given day. So even if we were to continue to limit office access by clients and anybody else coming in that we would want to come in, we still may have people going back and forth to the courthouse. And the other thing on the temperatures is of course, outside of COVID, there's been some research recently that, what we thought were normal temperatures and what we thought for normal temperatures or years really isn't really the normal temperatures. There's really a range of what normal temperatures are. So
I wondered about that.
I'll be watching.
One of our clients, so Sarah Marler, who's been on this call, Marler Law Partners, their biggest office and business base is in Farmington. And I think that's a legitimate concern or sort of thing to bring up, is that so many communities have been impacted differently and have a different cultural norm, right? So in St. Louis, people are maybe less likely to open up, even in the city versus the county. But in Farmington, consumers think you're really weird if you're not opening up on Monday. Like, oh, are you big city folk? Or like, we haven't had any cases here. Why would a business not be open? So they're kind of facing some of those challenges. Now, they don't typically have a lot of walk-ins to the firm. So, they're basically going to start bringing people back, same as you, so the day after Memorial Day, but then do by appointment only for clients. That way they can be prepared before the client would come in and have the masks available if they're wanted, but making them optional, make sure they've got, signs up, and it's at employees' option, but if they've got a schedule that they can manage, then it's a lot easier to get their space ready for when they will have those in-person interactions. But that's part of what they've been dealing with is, we've got staff in Farmington that thinks we're absolutely nuts, right? Because like, why are we not open yet? Then you've got, staff and lawyers in St. Louis that are like, well, we're opening up. We shouldn't be opening up. And so it's, I think with people that have those multiple geographic locations, it's something to consider. What's the cultural norm of what's going on within your community, and how can you adjust to that as well, and what your customers might expect.
Which has been really interesting because I've been canceling and rescheduling a lot of hotel contracts. And some of the hotels are extremely accommodating, but Missouri Bar has a new executive director, and she was really frustrated with the Branson area. They have a contract there, and they're like, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you coming?" She was trying to get out of this contract, and their approach was completely different than those of the St. Louis hotels, who most have been very accommodating. So it is regional, that's for sure.
Yeah, we just had the ISBA is about ready, has canceled. They haven't put it out there to the membership. They put it out to the board. So I got it yesterday, I think, is canceling our annual meeting, which is in St. Louis, because our incoming president is from the Metro East area. And the hotel apparently was accommodating. It was questionable.
Thanks.
I was wondering if that ISBA annual meeting, because it was supposed to be in June, right?
Yep, supposed to be in June, mid-June. Yep.
I was wondering about that the other day because I knew it was supposed to be in St. Louis.
And we talked a little bit about whether or not they're going to reschedule it, and they're not even going to reschedule it. So
for the bigger conferences, honestly, I think that makes a lot of sense because it's so much work and so much effort that if you postpone it, then you're doing another one 6 months later. So for those bigger conferences, I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, as of right now, Solo Small Firm for Missouri Bar is pushed back to August and is still supposed to be happening. As far as I know, unless you guys have heard anything different, and I know ISBA Solo Small Firm is not till October, right?
It's in October. And then I know like Missouri Trial Attorney Association, they've moved theirs. I think it was also originally in June. They've moved it out to August as well.
That's why Benjamin Bar is the end of August now, I hope.
A couple of our attorneys that work on HOA matters, that a lot of the questions are about neighborhood swimming pools.
Yeah.
So they've been presenting on that, which is a hot topic because even though most of the public pools will probably be closed, there's still the question: can your neighborhood pool open up or not? So
it's a tough one.
We have that question here too. My mom has it in her neighborhood right now. It opened up earlier this week. It's not been warm enough for anybody to use it, but they're all wondering what to do with it.
All the parents are like, "Oh God, you already took away our summer camps. Please don't take away the pool."
But I heard somebody say, they said, if somebody was talking about going to the doctor or the dentist, and they say, well, the pool is a lot safer than going to the doctor's office or the dentist's office because chlorine, at least what they're saying, does not transmit the COVID.
Yeah.
True.
Well, and I've seen that Walmart and places like that have sold out of those family aquatic center type pools because people are preparing for the worst, that they're going to have to get a hose in the backyard and that's their pool for the summer.
I think those are also conversations that should happen with your insurers, right? You're already seeing stories of business insurers who are saying if you open in defiance of orders or it doesn't seem prudent, they won't cover anything if somebody gets sick or something like that happens. So I think especially small businesses need to be talking with their insurers, their brokers, and know what's in their policy, know what's covered, know what the insurer's expectations are, and go from there.
Yeah.
Well, in Illinois, we have the governor's threat yesterday that if you have a license, which we license a whole lot of businesses and professions, we have over 100 professions in Illinois that we license. And then there are all sorts of other licenses. He's implied that, if you're not getting with the program, you may lose your license.
Yeah, I think last week, Dr. Garza presented at BAMSL, a town hall meeting. And Dr. Garza, for those of you who don't know, is the head of the St. Louis Metro Task Force for the pandemic. Let me just say, his talk was not uplifting. It was basically get ready for the long haul, and there's a second wave coming, and it's going to be worse than the first wave. And the first wave was really designed not to overwhelm the healthcare system. It really wasn't about making sure we didn't die or get sick. Because I think his take, so I don't remember whether you were on that call or not, but
Oh, yeah, I was there.
my takeaway from that was, you're going to get it. The question is whether you're going to die and whether the healthcare system is going to be overwhelmed. So I think from my perspective, I mean, I deal with a very, very impaired clientele. My biggest concern is that my client base dies from this. And that's a very real concern. They don't want to meet with me. They don't want to go out in public. They are infirm and they are sick. So, and they know that they are likely to contract it and not survive. They're also scared to death that the hospital is just going to kind of treat them, this whole topic of ableism, just going to treat them, well, you're going to die of something anyway, so you're already sick, we're going to let you go. Right. And then you deal with the whole person of color, which I think Dr. Garza also talked about, that at the moment in St. Louis, they have it limited to what he called communities. And so there's zip codes. You can look, I think, on the Post, they show the zip codes, and, you know, it's predominantly African-American communities and nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities where the elderly are housed. So I think it's depends on your client base as to what you planned for and what's going on. But I think, you know, BAMSL and Missouri, I think they all need to be looking at how does this affect people who are 60 or older, or those who have a physical impairment that may not be readily ascertainable. Now, I'm thinking of people with asthma. I mean, you know, most people with asthma, they have their inhaler and they go on, but that's definitely going to be a risk factor. And there's lots of people in St. Louis with asthma.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
Well, I think as lawyers, we're supposed to do what's, you know, prudent for our clients. And I think that's one of the ways to sell it, even in Farmington, is to, you know, we're going to meet telephonically unless there's some reason to meet in person, because, you know, the healthcare professionals are telling us to distance. I know that's, you know, that it's been made political, but, you know, I think that you have to rely upon the experts.
Yeah. This has been a great discussion. Just as we're wrapping up here, we would love to get your input too on focus areas or topics that you think would be good for these calls going forward. So if you have something top of mind, you know, chat it to us here as we wrap up, or email me.
Post it in the LinkedIn group.
After the fact, like give us your ideas on what you think would be helpful to discuss with other law firm owners. And I do, as always, have a little funny to share with everyone. And if anyone else has anything that...
Jamie, should I share some of those mask memes?
I'm accepting gifts currently. So if anyone runs across one of these, I would love it. Because not only is this clever, but this lady's holding a glass of champagne, which, you know, is my bevy. It's my go-to. Isn't that hilarious?
That's good.
I'm trying to find, I may low tech share this from my phone screen, but I'm trying to find, Jamie, the failed face mask compilation.
Yeah, why don't you post a link on
I'll post a link to the failed face mask compilations in our LinkedIn group. And I posted a link to the LinkedIn group in our chat here. But I know that's something that Jamie has emailed out to everyone before. And then the last thing, I did share that certificate of service mailing service. Their website looks like it was made in the 90s. So I may hold back on fully recommending them as a vendor until someone has taken a demo from them. But it looks like they do full in-house. They handle the whole mail house process.
Awesome. Well, thank you all again so much for your time. I wish you a lovely Thursday and rest of the week, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Bye.